Hey everyone, and welcome back to the shop. I've been doing a lot of work with my dust collection, so I thought I'd give you a quick tour of my dust collection system. So my dust collector is a single stage dust collector. The brand is Woodtech. So it's really nice having the dust collector out here because not only is the noise out here, but also the fine dust that you get when the dust collector turns on, especially an old one like this, is out here in the shed and not inside my workspace. To turn the dust collection system on, I have a little mold control like this that is usually on the fence of my table saw. You just hit the button and there it goes. Here we are inside the barn. On the other side of the wall is the shed and the dust collector. The pipe comes through the wall and connects to this Y. The main dust collection system goes down and under the floor right here. There's a blast gate. This area I have to work on next. I'll add more PVC piping to go up and over the miter station and eventually to the bandsaw. Originally, this barn had a dirt floor. When we bought the house, I put the 3/4 inch bluestone gravel down and I used this building as a welding shop. I had a wood shop in the basement and eventually I just didn't do that much welding, so I moved all the wood shop equipment out here, and before doing that I framed out the floor with treated 2x6s and I just kind of moved the gravel out of the way as I did the framing, and the 2x6s have held up great. I'm really happy to see that. To put this first piece of 4-inch PVC pipe down, I had to make a slight bend in the main pipe because the grade kind of goes downhill over here, and instead of excavating out, I used the heat gun just to kind of get a slight bend so the pipe drops down into the ground a little bit deeper there where it goes underneath the joists. Originally, I was going to use a flexible pipe for this section because there's really no way to get a rigid 4-inch pipe underneath the joists. And I was talking about it on Instagram, and then my friend Art from Words in Wood said, hey, why don't you just use couplings and build the pipe 14 to 16 inches at a time. And that's what I did. It worked out great. It was not too difficult to do. And I've got about an 8-foot run here that stops at a Y, and then this side branches off into the table saw, and this side here comes up along the wall. Right now, I'm just going to keep this pipe capped off. I do plan on putting the joiner on the other side of the wall in the new shed space, so maybe I'll go through the wall with the pipe. I may run a pipe along the wall so I can wheel the thickness planer over and hook it up to dust collection. But right now I'm just kind of keeping my options open, so I've got this side capped off. The main focus was to hook up the table saws. Here's where the dust collection comes out of the floor. It does hit a T, and I know that's not the best solution when it comes to dust collection, but this is just a small shop, so I'm not that concerned about it. I've already used the saw with dust collection and it works great. So I've got a blast gate where the collection meets the saw. If I'm going to use the Powermatic for dado cuts, I'll close this blast gate and open up the other one. But for the most part, the saw stop is the designated saw, so this will be the saw that I'm using 95% of the time. Over at the T that's connected to the saw stop is a flexible pipe that connects to a 90, which connects to the blast gate, which connects to the Powermatic. I used the flexible pipe, number one, because I had it, and also it gives me a little flexibility. Right now, the Powermatic is 16 inches away from the saw stop. I might move this back another 2 inches. Hooking up the Powermatic was the last step in the dust collection project, at least for now. And the next step is to put the floor back together and get this shop cleaned, organized, and finally ready for some woodworking. Okay, well, it's been about 3 months since I started this project, and the dust collection was probably the last big thing, and then I can move on to shop furniture and more fun things like that. But this is just, I couldn't be happier with the way it turned out. The space is so much brighter, there's so much more space, and the main key is to not junk it up. I'm going to build a lot of shop furniture that will utilize the space, but try to keep it open like this. I will be building an assembly table in the back that will be on wheels, because the one thing that I really am excited to get away from is assembling things on my outfeed table. That's just a big interruption of workflow, because you could be building something and next thing you know you need to use the table saw and then everything has to be moved. So back there, I'm going to build something. I want to be careful that it doesn't sort of take over the space, because you still need floor space to build. So I'll have to figure that out. I also want to add a traditional workbench to the shop at some point too. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this barn, because I've been getting a ton of Instagram messages and emails. So real quick, this barn was on the property when we bought the house. It measures roughly 16 by 32. The ceilings are 8 feet 2 inches. That's why I put the dust collection on under the floor. There's just not a lot of headroom here, and I can just about move a piece of standard sheet of plywood around. The shed space is roughly 10 by 32. The upstairs has a mansard roof, so same 16 by 32, but the head height is not as much as you have downstairs here. The heat in the barn is oil-filled electric baseboard wired to 220. I've got an 8-foot piece in the main shop here and a 6-foot piece in the shed space. I don't anticipate having a moisture problem with the PVC dust collection pipe. The barn, the topography of the barn is, it's on top of a hill. Any direction you go when you leave the barn, you go downhill. And the barn is basically at the top of, even if you're driving, you're going downhill, probably more than 100 feet. So that's just the way the topography of the house is and the barn. So the soil tends to be very dry here. Also, the barn is on top of the soil, so you're not getting any moisture directly falling into the soil. So I don't anticipate having any problems with moisture. I also had that long section of pipe here for so many years without any problems. So that added section, I don't anticipate a problem. I'm not going to ground the PVC pipe. I thought very seriously about it. I wasn't looking forward to it. And then I watched a video from Stumpy Nubs, and that guy knows what he's talking about. He definitely does his research. And after watching the video, and I'll put a link to it in the description below, I felt that it wasn't necessary. And basically he says it's like a myth. He went ahead and grounded his just to avoid the conversations about it. But I just wanted to wrap this up and finally get moving forward with making furniture. I think that's probably it. I mean, the only other thing I can think of is the reason why I didn't pour a concrete floor in this barn all those years ago probably had to do with expense, and also the fact that I was able to do this myself. I just went out and got the 2x6s, the plywood, and put the floor down. And I remember it being kind of a whimsical decision. It was just sort of like one day, like, hey, let's get the shop out of the basement because the kids are getting bigger. The shop is dusty, it's loud, and you're not doing any welding anyway, so why not move the shop out into the barn? So I'm happy I did that, and it's a great little space. It's not a big shop, but it's definitely big enough for me. And I like the idea of not getting too big, because you only have so many, there's only so many hours in the day, and the more things you have, the bigger your space, sort of the less time you have. So that's it for now. Next time I will be posting a video on how to unbox and assemble this saw stop, and then I promise you we will start building some furniture in the shop here. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Before you start your next project, click on the link in the description for my professional woodworking plans and build a piece of furniture that will last a lifetime.